Today we're looking at the Ibanez GRG 121 SP. Yes, it's a Geo, but stick around, it might surprise you. So first of all, this guitar is not stock, so if you do want to hear it with the stock pickups and electronics, I did put links in the description below of both Philip McKnight's video and Elmo Cargulanen's video of this guitar. As for what I've changed, I've got Ernie Ball strap locks here. I pretty much put these on every guitar I buy straight away. We have a 5-way super switch, mechanical super switch, as opposed to the cheap PCB switches that most guitars under like $1,000 have. We got DiMarzio deactivator pickups. I love these. And then finally, Gotoh locking tuners. And that's it really. The nut is stock, potentiometers are stock, bridge is stock, everything else is still stock. Generally, I kind of write off the Ibanez Geo line, not because they're necessarily bad guitars, but because they're just your run-of-the-mill, typical starter guitar that you've seen and probably played 1,000,000 times. Not bad, but nothing to write home about. And if you go to Ibanez.com's website and look at the stock photo of this particular model, it doesn't help the case either because they make this thing look butt ugly. But as you can see in person, it does not look anything like the picture online. This thing is freaking gorgeous. So I've had this guitar for about 5 or 6 months. I first saw it on Philip McKnight's video, once again, link in the description. And after seeing his video, I had to give it a try. So I went to my local shop, they had one, and I bought it same day. This typically goes for $299, brand new, retail. I got it for only $100 because I had a Squire that I traded, so yay for me, I got this for next to nothing. Specs are as follows, shown on the screen, but taking a closer look here, for this fixed bridge that Ibanez often puts on a lot of their guitars, even the higher dollar ones, a lot of times the saddle screws will actually be way too long. They'll stick up and poke you. This guitar, it was not the case. These are actually just right, so that was a pleasant surprise. I didn't have to do anything to these saddles at all. And they're not necessarily rounded on the edges, like, say, Hipshot saddles, but they're not bad either. I would say they're just right. They're pretty much what you would expect, but they're not cheap and chintzy. So once again, this bridge, honestly, I don't see any point in changing anything on this. It's totally fine. The knobs are not set screw knobs. They're those that you just pull off and push on. As for the neck, this is pretty much the star of the show for me here. It's actually pretty unique for something from Ibanez. Feels very different. Now, I was skeptical of having a Jatoba fretboard, especially because if you see it in pictures online, especially stock photos, it looks very gritty. It looks like it would be dried out very easily. It just looks cheap and bleh, right? But in person, that's not the case. As far as darkness goes, it's about in line with rosewood, but it has sort of a cherry red hue to it, which I think actually looks really good when you pair it with this purple and blue finish here. Now, as far as the feel of it goes, yeah, it's pretty porous, but it's very tight grained, and the feel under the fingers, believe it or not, it does not feel dry like that Indian Laurel crap that some companies have been using. And smoothness, as far as smoothness goes, it's about in line with ebony. It's almost as smooth as ebony, so I like that a lot. So this guitar made me a fan of Jatoba, actually. And as for the neck, as you can see, it is roasted maple, very dark roasted maple too. I really love the way it contrasts with the body color. Scarf joint right here, no volute or anything. But hey, Typical. But this has a pretty unique feel, especially for an Ibanez. For one, Ibanez Wizard necks are usually that thin U shape where the heel of the neck is totally flat just about. This is actually more of a thin C. Very comfortable even for my small hands. I really love the way this feels for cording and leads actually. I like the Wizard necks, but it's always cool to see them change things up every now and then. Satin finish. Has kind of a velvety feel to it because you can still feel the grain of the wood. If you zoom in, you can kind of see the pores there. I haven't really felt of a guitar quite like this. It's really nice. And like many Ibanez guitars, you have that rounded off, nice neck joint there. There's no swoop back here like a lot of their more expensive models, like the premium line, but it's still very good. If I do the handshake test where I get my hand all the way up here, flip it over, as you can see, there's no real issue getting up to the 24th fret, so in that aspect, you're fine there. For the fretwork, this is a cheap guitar, and these are nickel frets. So out of the box, they are probably going to look pretty yucky and tarnished, and they may even feel gritty when you try to bend. But after a good polish, like I did here, they feel nice and glassy. They look totally fine. Now, the only knock I have to give these frets in particular is they're medium frets instead of jumbo, which kind of a bummer, but they really don't get in the way that much of playability. But they may wear down a little faster because they're medium. There's not as much material. But time will tell with that. Now, for the fret dressing, it's actually very nice. It's not a prestige treatment or anything like that, but this thing has been through a cold, dry winter already. I have not conditioned this fretboard, and there are no jagged edges to speak of. If I take this microfiber cloth and I run it across, it's not catching anywhere. So thumbs up on that. I've had guitars that are much more expensive, in the $1,500 range, that I've had to file the edges on. I have not had to touch this guitar. The nut here, the specs online say that it's ABS plastic. I'm honestly not sure though. The reason why I say that is because I attempted to actually change this to a Graphtec Tusk nut. I screwed it up, so I just put the stock nut back on, but before I did a little drop test just for the hell of it, and they sounded exactly the same when I dropped these on a hard surface. So this may actually be graphite or something, and they just didn't advertise it. And it doesn't really feel like plastic if I run my finger across it either, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if it is, but I just thought it was kind of peculiar that it did not sound like cheap plastic. It sounded just like the Tusk nut when I dropped it. So the nut itself is cut very nicely. No issues there. No binding. This guitar is very stable when it comes to tuning, even before I put these locking tuners on. For the tuners, like I said, I got Gotoh locking tuners. These are the, I want to say they're the MGT Magnum Lock tuners with the thumb wheel. They are staggered, as you can see. Really cool chrome finish. The original tuners that this thing came with are junk. They function, but that was one of the first things I wanted to change straight away. They just have a lot of play in them, which is typical of a cheap guitar, so keep that in mind. With guitar pickups, I'm actually not that hard to please. Unlike a lot of people, I don't really worry about changing pickups unless there's just something glaring that I really cannot stand, which was the case with this guitar. The so-called classic elite pickups that this thing came with are junk. They sound extremely muddy. They sound weak. Honestly, if you have any kind of gain on this thing, it sounds like you just took the tone knob and rolled it all the way down. It's awful. So, if you do try this guitar out and you like the guitar itself, but you don't like the way it sounds, seriously put new pickups in it and you'll be fine. These are the Marzio deactivators, which I particularly love. They have sort of a flat EQ response, at least from what I can tell. So they're not too honky, but they're not scooped either. And they have a lot of note definition. They're great for drop tuning. Now for the QC and the workmanship, I have very little to complain about. This thing is just about bang on. It is up there with many more expensive guitars. There are a couple little nitpicks. First of all, even though this is a very cool finish, I feel like it may be a little thin, a little too thin. The reason why I say that is because I was adjusting the pickup height one day and my screwdriver just touched the edge of the cavity and a little bit of paint right there just kind of flaked off. I'll show a close-up picture of that. And also, out of the box, this guitar had sort of a little nick on the very edge, kind of like a little scratch, but it looks like it's under the clear coat almost. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I'll post a picture if you can't. And then there's a teeny tiny little speck, little black speck right there, just a finish flaw, but it's a non-issue really. The only other thing I have to nitpick is the way this output jack is. It was just kind of a stupid idea for Ibanez to do this. This thing is pretty much all plastic except for the contacts inside. And the way this is made, if this fails, it might be a pain in the ass to actually replace. Philip McKnight's video will actually elaborate on that. You may have to actually ream the hole in the cavity here underneath. So that's a bummer. But as it is right now, it keeps the cable in tight. It hasn't loosened on me. I'm not hearing any kind of weird noises or interference or ground loops or anything like that. So as it is right now, this is absolutely fine. I just hope it stays that way. In case you happen to notice this little area right here during the video, ignore that. That is 100% my fault. I made a rookie mistake when I was installing the new pickups and I accidentally drilled through the body just about. But I did get that fixed. So, not Ibanez's fault. It didn't come like that. That was 100% me. final thoughts on this guitar. One thing I wanted to point out is a lot of guys will buy a guitar and immediately want to do a video or review it within a week or maybe a few days of owning it. They're really excited, they're in that honeymoon phase, so they're going to say good things about it, whether it's actually good or not, or whether it has issues or not. I'm guilty of doing the same thing in the past, and luckily I haven't in quite a while. But the reason why I say that is because I have given this time. I've had it for about 7 or 8 months now, and it's definitely not the case with this guitar. It's sat here, it's been played like crazy, and I can confidently say this is one of my favorite guitars that I've ever owned. I've owned close to about 50 in the 17 years that I've been playing. Right now I own 8, and this is one of the first ones that I reach for just about every time I want to jam. It just feels great in my hands. There's really not much at all to fault with this thing. All these YouTube channels, they keep saying this is a game changer, which I kind of agree. It's been a really long time since I've played a guitar this nice in this particular price bracket, and it punches well above its weight. It does say Geo on it, but the Ibanez S561 that I reviewed a while back, it's in that one price bracket step above this one, so it's a standard Ibanez, and this one is much nicer, to me at least. I prefer this well over that S-Series that I played. The only thing really that I gotta give knocks to is, of course, that proprietary jack, which shouldn't be a big deal to replace that if it ever does go bad. And then the fret wire could just be a little nicer, but again, it's not a deal breaker for me. It plays amazing, sounds great. As long as you change the poopy pickups it comes with and get you some nice tuners, then you're going to have a rocking machine right here. But anyway, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video, and horns up.